In this video, I'll be talking through a couple of stake pool updates around our own stake pool, ADAOZ, as well as a couple of conversations that are happening in the community at the moment around slot battles and also the minimum fee for stake pools. All right, let's get into it. Hey everyone, if this is your first time here, I'm Peter Bury, and please consider giving me that thumbs up, click subscribe, and click on that notification bell, especially if you really like Cardano related content. I finally got over that 15,000 subscriber mark. It took a long time to get there, but thank you so much for everyone that is subscribed to the channel. Really appreciate all of those likes, comments, and all the engagement that I get. It really helps the YouTube algorithm as well. But before we get into all of the stake pool side of things and all the updates and whatnot, I just want to point out that the Cardano Summit is coming up. The main one is in Lausanne, but there are over 50 community events around the world. We're hosting one of them here in Brisbane, Australia as well. So if you're in the local area, you can check out the page here on Meetup. I will put the links down below. We have a full day of presentations. We have a pre-party, an after party, all courtesy of the Cardano Foundation as well. So we wouldn't be able to put on this event, this free event for anyone to attend if it wasn't for the foundation. Our event is going to be held in Fortitude Valley at Hotel X. It's just off Brunswick Street, and we have an after party at the Pig and Whistle just around the corner from there as well. So if you are in the area, like I said, if you want to attend, please do. We're still looking for presentations as well. So we have a presentation form. So that's going to be closing very soon. And we also have an artist NFT gallery. So the Art Bank are providing a art gallery there at the event, and we'll be able to actually talk and engage with the artists that are going to be there presenting and talking about their projects as well. So I'm pretty excited about that one. But let's get into all this stuff around the stake pool side of things and find out exactly what's going on. So first off, with our stake pool, there have been quite a few updates over the last month. Now, we've gone through a bit of change, a bit of restructure in the team itself. So before we used to have 5 owners of the stake pool, and now that's being reduced to just myself now. So the other team members are gone off to do their own things. Our main pool investor, which gave us the $1 million ADA pledge, is gone off to participate in DeFi loans and looking at buying property through DeFi loans. So I'm going to watch that journey and see how it goes, how $1 million ADA worth of assets is used in the DeFi ecosystem to take out a loan and buy a physical real world property. This is something I'm really interested in myself. This was what I wanted to do, just that I don't have that kind of collateral to be able to purchase a property that way. But I'm looking forward to seeing how he or she But I'm looking forward to seeing how they go through that process so we can find out exactly how we can do something very similar if we're interested in that kind of thing. So we're restructuring that. I will be getting the pledge back up and running a lot higher as well. I just have to move stuff from my vaults to be able to actually do that. But it doesn't really affect any of your rewards or anything like that. It just affects our rewards internally. Now, there are some interesting issues, not so much issues, but metadata stuff. And this comes up with if you're delegating to our stake pool and you're using Daedalus, and I think it's appearing in Yoroi now, the pool name doesn't come up. So if you're delegating to us already and you're using Daedalus, in Daedalus, it will come up as unknown at the moment, which is a little bit annoying. You still can get to the pool by using the pool ID or the new Beach 32 hashed one, which has starts with pool ID itself. But you still can find the pool that way. It just doesn't bring up the name of our stake pool. But rest assured, the pool is still minting blocks. We've minted 24 so far this epoch, and you still get your ADA rewards. Just that it doesn't come up in the dashboard when you're staking or delegating. So if anyone does want to check their delegation, you can use a website such as Cardano Scan. So you just go to your wallet, grab any of your receiving addresses, go to Cardano Scan and paste in your address there, and you'll be able to look up on chain exactly what your wallet is doing. So the actual wallet itself is just an interface, a window to the blockchain, and these explorers will actually show you what's on chain. So if you're not able to see it in Daedalus or whatever wallet you're using, you can use one of these explorers. Cardano Scan is absolutely fantastic, and you can see here this particular wallet is delegated to ADA Australia. So easy as that. Now let's talk about some of these other factors and other conversations that are coming up at the moment. And this all comes around to these various parameters that are looking at potentially being changed. People are wanting them to be changed. Everything from the A0 parameter, which is the pledge, and how that affects the formula and rewards for stake pools, to reducing the minimum fee that stake pool operators get. And this is all to help promote decentralization of the network. Now, I don't have an answer for any of these. I'm just following along with some of the conversations here and trying to work out how it will affect me as a stake pool operator. And there's also one other factor that's affecting stake pools at the moment, and this is the I'll talk about this in a moment, but that PraOS, how PraOS is PraOS, don't know how to pronounce that, how that is affecting stake pools with slot battles at the moment. But let's go talk about the pledge and the reward system at the moment. So this is the formula that calculates the rewards. I'm not going to pretend that I know what that means, but the two factors that you do need to have a look at and what people want changed is, one is this A0, so the pledge, the amount of ADA that is delegated to a stake pool by the operator itself. And that is indicated here on Cardano, on PoolTools, sorry. This is the pledge. So a lot of pools that have a high pledge, their rewards are slightly better because of that amount of ADA that is delegated. But that amount is very, very slight. It is big enough if you have a large amount of ADA that it is worth putting it in as a pledge, but it doesn't really affect the overall pool ecosystem. And people do want that change to try and help reduce the amount of multi-stake pool operators in the ecosystem. So that's operators with 20, 30 pools or whatever it is. They want to get that reduced down a little bit so that the delegation can spread out to some of these smaller stake pool operators. So that's one thing there. The other particular parameter that people are looking at is the K parameter. So this is a K parameter here, and the K parameter defines how many stake pools are needed within the ecosystem. At the moment, this is set to 500. So 500 pools are an optimal amount of stake pools that are needed to validate all the blocks in the blockchain. So at the moment, if you look at some of the statistics, there's about 1,000 or so stake pools that actually mint on a regular basis every epoch. So it's a little bit more than 500. But if we increase that, it will give those smaller stake pool operators and more stake pools in general more of a chance to mint blocks. So more people, new people that are coming into the ecosystem that are thinking about setting up a stake pool will be able to get some of the rewards from it. So it's an interesting parameter to look at, and I don't know the answer for this, whether it should change, what it should change to, and how will it actually affect the ecosystem in general. So a lot of smarter people have been looking into this and working through various Cardano improvement proposals to try and work this out. Now, I'll put a link to this particular improvement proposal here. This is SIP 0050, and there it's a very big, deep, long conversations with lots of graphs and statistics around how these parameters will affect and how parameters will change various staking rewards and mechanisms. If you have the time to go through it, if you have a comment or an opinion, I'd love to hear it down in the comments down below. I'm still getting into this to understand exactly how it's going to affect us, how it's going to affect the ecosystem itself. I've been so busy doing so many other things, the Cardano summit, the events, meetups, and everything else. This is one factor I haven't really looked at. But in this SIP proposal, there is actually a lot of really good content and links, and this is one of them here. And this was a breakdown of statistics around the loss battle risk by pool size. So this is slot battles. So slot battles, for those for people that don't know, is when two stake pools are assigned the same slot at the same time. This is done by design. So my stake pool and someone else's stake pool will be assigned slot number 100. And we both mint that block at the same time. All the transactions come through. We mint that block at the same time. And then the battle occurs. And this was usually done by the VRF and the one with a VRF hash and the one with the smaller VRF hash would win that battle. You don't need to know what that is. It's just the signing of the block. And in general, that has always gone down to the smallest pool, the pool with the small amount of delegation to it. This gives the smaller stake pools a chance to be able to actually mint a block that epoch. Otherwise, if they were, for example, only signed one single block and they lost that slot battle, that essentially wipes out all of their rewards. They don't get the minimum fee, and they also don't get the block rewards for that particular epoch at all. So originally, before the Vassal hard fork, we saw majority of the smaller pools win out those particular slot battles. But now we're seeing more of the larger pools win those slot battles as well. And this is something that I've only just recently noticed, but it's actually affecting us as well. This particular epoch was the first one where we've lost 3 slot battles in succession really quickly in one day. And, it kind of drew my attention to it a little bit more. And, looking at that and thinking, wow, okay, it's if this was a smaller stake pool, this would probably wipe out their rewards, especially if they're only assigned 3 blocks and that's all the blocks gone. It could happen. It really, really could happen. So that's what a part of the community is crying up about at the moment. So if you see conversations around it, it is because of that. And there does seem to be changes after the Vassal hard fork. You can follow this conversation here and this original thread discussion about it is working the way it's supposed to be working. Now, if you think of it from a larger stake pool operator's point of view, such as maybe Binance, one of the exchanges, if they're always losing out on those slot battles, it means their delegates, their ecosystem is actually losing out on some of these ADA rewards, and their pools are always performing worse off. Now, if you look at the homepage of PoolTools here, you can see the amount of pools that are actually returning the pinpoint amount of returns around that 3.7 to 4.2%. And it's only 17% of pools in the entire ecosystem that are returning that ideal sweet spot there. And everything else is either really fortunate to get something really high or on the downside, the lower side here. And if you look up some of the stats of some of the really large pools, their stats are around this point here. And this all comes back down to the loss battle risk by size. If we have a look at some of these here, so if you're a large stake pool such as 60 million, you have a higher risk of losing these slot battles, and then unfortunately having that lower return. So it's unfortunate for those large pools, but really, really fortunate for the smaller stake pool operators because they will get those higher returns. Delegates don't know this. Delegates don't know that. They could still stake to a smaller stake pool operator. They would win the slot battles and get those higher returns. And the larger ones, which you think and assume would be doing very well, are actually doing a little bit more poorly. But now with these changes of this particular parameter, that how this TPraos works, that kind of levels out that playing field, and some of these big pool operators will be the slot battles will be a little bit better, more so in their favor. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out, and exactly if anything there will change. I don't think it will at the moment. So we just have to wait and see. Now, the other thing that is being talked a lot about is the minimum fee. The minimum fee. So this is something that is set on every pool at the moment. If we just go back to our pool here, you'll be able to see it on the stats page. But this here, where is it? So every epoch, we will be automatically part of the fee that we get from the collective fee and rewards that are distributed to the pool is that 340 ADA, and that goes to us. So all the delegates that are delegated to the pool, out of the total of their rewards at every epoch, that 340 of that will go to us, and that's to pay for server costs, etc., etc. So at the moment, with the price of ADA as it is, the epoch fee is just paying for our infrastructure. So it's we'll probably go something a little bit cheaper if we had to, but it's paying for what we're spending at the moment. When the price of ADA is better, of course, we have more funds, etc., to be able to pay for that infrastructure. But the race now is to, or the idea now is to be able to reduce this ADA minimum fee down to 0 or something lower, so that the smaller stake pool operators can actually compete against some of these larger ones. So if you look at the calculations, there is a little bit of an explanation down here. And here it says, for a minimum fee of 340, means a pool needs 10 million total stake before that fee is small enough to be relatively insignificant to a delegate. So it is hard to gain 10 million worth of delegation to a stake pool. We were really lucky in the early days when we started up ADAOZ. We did get to that 10 million mark within a few months, and it made that growth of the pool really, really easy at that point because it didn't affect the delegates' fees or rewards that much at all. But now, we want to reduce that down so that the smaller stake pools, anyone below that 10 million mark, around 1 million or 2 million, will be able to compete against larger pools and then have that fee change over time if their pool grows, whatever it is, to pay for the infrastructure. This I see as one of those races to the bottom, where a lot of people will then try and reduce their fees and compete against each other on that particular fee, and then we'll be only earning ADA to pay for our hosting, pay for our infrastructure via the transaction fees that are going through the blocks. So every block that goes through that is minted on the pool, we get the fees that go through there. Now, you might be wondering how much fees go through every block. This is a beautiful website here that it gives you a visual representation of what is going through every single block every 20 seconds. And this block here, this one's just come through. It's quite a large block, but you can see the fee here in the bottom corner here, 13.82 ADA. So if you are assigned one block per an epoch, and you have 0 minimum fee and your margin fee is also 0, you will get 13.82 ADA that entire epoch as your reward. That is definitely not enough at the moment to pay for any type of servers. Most stake pool operators would have at least 3 to 4 servers to be paid for, and they range between 60 to 80 US dollars for some sort of decent configuration, maybe even more if you're running some back-end processes behind that. So you could see it's not sustainable going that way. What is the correct answer for this? Do we reduce it down? Do we increase it? Well, I definitely probably don't increase it, but having that ability to decrease it to 0, I don't know if that's the best thing to do, especially if it creates an ecosystem where everyone's competing against each other for that 0 fee, and then working through the ecosystem that way to try and run your stake pool. It really, really doesn't gel with me, that kind of idea. Anyway, that is everything around what's happening in the stake pool ecosystem at the moment. All the updates from our stake pool and all the updates of these parameters that may change, everything from the minimum fee, how slot battles work at the moment. It's going to be quite an interesting process, and seeing how this community grows from this position where they are at the moment. If you have an opinion, if you want to talk about this, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what the community thinks about this, what all my viewers think about this as well. I think it's a very interesting topic, and I don't know, or I don't have the answers for any of this. It's quite a hard balancing act, and I'm not surprised that IOHK are a little hesitant to move quickly on this one and just do the changes, because it will affect the entire ecosystem for the good or for the worse. I just don't know. I just can't comment there. All right. Now, if you really got something out of this, please consider giving me that thumbs up, click subscribe, click on the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.